Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're going way back to ancient China.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we're going to learn about a really pivotal figure in Chinese mythology,
Okay.
a guy named Shennong.
All right. I'm intrigued.
We've actually just got the one source for this one, but it's jam-packed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so many details.
Okay.
We're going to figure out how Shennong's legacy is like totally connected to the origins of agriculture and medicine in ancient China. So,
Makes sense. I mean, they're pretty important.
right. So are you ready to explore?
Let's do it.
Okay.
I'm excited to see what this source has to say.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
Well, this source really emphasizes Shennong as like this incredible innovator in agriculture.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
It says he didn't just teach people how to farm, but he introduced really specific techniques like planting seeds in rows and using tools like the lacey, which was a wooden plow.
Wow.
It's kind of amazing to think about.
Yeah.
He maybe laid the groundwork for practices that are still used today.
Right. Like in some form or another.
Yeah. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's important to remember that Shennong's story is like a window
Okay.
into the ancient world. Like, his story reveals how early civilizations tried to, like,
Yeah.
understand and use the power of nature.
I love that perspective.
You know,
Yeah.
it's not just about the techniques, but like the mindset behind it all.
Totally. Totally. And think about all the effects of these innovations.
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine a society transitioning from being nomadic hunter-gatherers
Right?
to settled farmers.
Yeah.
This shift allowed for food surpluses, which in turn led to more people, the
Yeah.
development of villages, and ultimately like the rise of complex societies, you know?
Exactly. Shennong's story really embodies this turning point in human history.
He's not just some made-up figure.
Yeah.
Like his story reflects a real change.
A real turning point for like humanity as a whole.
Totally. And it wasn't just about how to farm.
Right.
The source mentions that he experimented with different plants to identify like what was good to eat.
Oh, interesting.
He even like classified them based on their properties.
Wow.
Do you think that could have been like the earliest foundation for agricultural science in China?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine the dedication that would have taken
I know.
to observe and document like tons and tons of plants,
Yeah.
you know? To be able to tell which ones were good and which ones were harmful.
And this leads us to his other huge contribution,
Which is...
traditional Chinese medicine.
Ah, right.
The legendary father of Chinese medicine.
Mm-hmm.
The source says he tasted hundreds of herbs
Wow.
to keep track of their medicinal properties.
That's amazing.
Do we have any like actual historical evidence? Or is that, purely mythology?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Concrete evidence is hard to come by.
Yeah.
But, mythology often reflects like deeper truths
Okay.
about a culture's values and beliefs.
Okay.
The story of Shennong tasting all these herbs and like even risking his own health, it speaks to a really deep respect for nature
Right.
and like a desire to explore its mysteries to help people.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a strong narrative that's obviously had a big impact
Yeah,
on Chinese medicine.
for sure.
And the source mentions the Shennong Ben Cao Jing,
Oh, okay.
which is this old text that is attributed to Shennong.
Uh-huh.
Does that text give us any like insight into the specific herbs that he tested?
So while the version we have now is probably from a later time,
Okay.
it still gives us really valuable information about early Chinese herbal medicine.
Like what kind of information?
Well, it classifies hundreds of herbs
Wow.
based on what they do and how they affect people.
Okay.
And it lays the groundwork for the complicated way that traditional Chinese medicine diagnoses and treats people.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's like we're looking at the very beginnings of a whole medical system.
Right.
So I'm curious about something.
What's that?
The source mentions the 5 elements theory
Okay.
as being central to Chinese medicine.
Uh-huh.
How does that relate to Shennong's legacy?
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah.
So the 5 elements, wood, fire, earth, metal, and water,
Right.
are thought to be like fundamental forces
Yeah.
that interact within the body and like all of nature.
Okay.
And while the theory itself probably came about later,
Yeah.
it's easy to see how Shennong's work with plants could have contributed to this idea
Oh, okay.
of like everything being connected.
Yeah.
Imagine him watching certain plants thrive in certain places or seeing patterns and how they work as medicine.
Okay.
Those observations could have been the start
I see.
of later theories.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like he was observing the basic parts
right.
of this whole system.
Exactly.
Okay, well, let's talk about this legend
Okay.
of Shennong tasting the 100 herbs.
Yeah. Yeah.
It says he even had to deal with 72 poisons in one day.
Oh,
That
wow.
sounds a little, I don't know, superhuman. But
Yeah.
does this legend have, like, a symbolic meaning?
Absolutely.
What is it?
It represents the idea of like scientific inquiry,
Okay.
emphasizing how important it is to observe and experiment,
Yeah.
even take risks
Mm-hmm.
to gain knowledge.
Okay.
But it also reminds us that that quest can be dangerous,
All right.
that progress isn't always easy.
Yeah, it's not just about being a hero.
Right.
It's about really wanting to understand nature,
Yeah.
even the bad parts.
Exactly.
Speaking of connections, the source mentions a link
Okay.
between Shennong and the Yellow Emperor.
Oh, right.
Can you explain that to our listeners?
Yeah, so the Yellow Emperor is this legendary ruler.
Okay.
He's a big deal in Chinese mythology. He's often given credit for inventing things like writing
Wow.
and the compass.
Yeah.
The connection between him and Shennong
Mhm.
is probably because they are both considered like ancestors
Oh,
of Chinese civilization.
I see.
Shennong is about mastering nature and food, and the Yellow Emperor represents like society and rules.
Okay.
Their stories together show us a society that wants to advance
Yeah.
in both like technology and society.
That's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like their stories are two sides of the same coin,
totally.
showing how agriculture, medicine, and social order are all connected
Mm-hmm.
to how early Chinese civilization developed.
Exactly.
So, if we take a step back,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway here?
Well, I think Shennong's story shows us
Yeah.
how humans and nature are always connected.
Okay.
It highlights the courage and ingenuity
Hmm.
that drives us to explore,
Yeah.
understand, and eventually control the power of nature,
Yeah, I like that.
for better or worse.
That was beautifully put. So to everyone listening, I hope this deep dive has made you curious about the world of Chinese mythology and its influence on culture, science, and how we see our own journey as humans. Who knows what other stories are out there, so keep exploring, and we'll see you next time.